In the heart of South Carolina, a legal drama unfolded that gripped the nation. Attorney Alex Murdaugh found himself embroiled in a whirlwind of criminal charges. The tale begins in June 2021, when the bodies of his wife Maggie and son Paul were discovered on their family property, a crime scene that sent shockwaves through the community. Murdaugh was indicted by a grand jury on 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possession of a weapon. But in a twist of events, he pleaded not guilty to the charges and maintained his innocence. Yet, as we delved deeper into the story, it seemed that this was just the beginning of Murdaugh's legal troubles. As the case began to unravel, it became clear that the murder charges were just the tip of the iceberg. Murdaugh was not only a suspect in a double murder case, but he was also facing a slew of financial charges. The legal quagmire that Alex Murdaugh found himself in was far from a simple one. As the layers of this complex case were peeled back, a grim picture of financial manipulation and deceit began to emerge. Murdaugh was facing 27 separate charges, all related to financial fraud and money laundering. These charges stemmed from allegations that Murdaugh had been defrauding his own law clients and associates, all a part of Murdaugh's family law firm, using their trust and his position to fuel his own illicit activities. With years of legal practice under his belt, Murdaugh knew the ins and outs of the system and seemed to have used this knowledge to his advantage. One of the most serious allegations against him was the misappropriation of settlement funds. This is a grave betrayal of trust, and in the legal world it's considered one of the most egregious offenses a lawyer can commit. Imagine trusting a legal professional with your case only to find that they have been using your settlement money for their own purposes. Further adding to his legal woes, Murdaugh was also suspended from practicing law. This suspension was not just a blow to his career, but also a stark reminder of the severity of his alleged crimes. For a man whose family once held a high standing in the legal community, this was a significant fall from grace. As the legal net tightened around him, the reality of his situation became increasingly clear. Murdaugh was no longer just a suspect in a murder case. He was now at the center of a massive financial fraud scandal that threatened to shatter his reputation and ruin his life. With mounting evidence against him, the walls were closing in on Murdaugh. The dark underbelly of his financial dealings had been exposed, and it was only a matter of time before he would have to face the consequences of his actions. Convicted murderer Alex Murdaugh did something Thursday he hasn't done in the 2 years since his life of privilege and power started to unravel. He pled guilty to a crime. Murdaugh pleaded guilty to 22 counts of financial fraud and money laundering in federal court. The federal guilty pleas likely locks in years, if not decades, in prison for the disbarred lawyer, even if his murder conviction and sentence in state court are overturned on appeal. Murdaugh, once a respected attorney, now stands guilty of stealing millions from his clients. His victims ranged from the vulnerable to the unsuspecting, painting a picture of a man who had let his moral compass go astray. One of the victims was a paralyzed man who had put his trust in Murdaugh to represent his interests. In an unthinkable betrayal, Murdaugh stole from this man, exploiting his condition for personal gain. But the list of victims doesn't end there. Murdaugh also admitted to stealing from 2 sisters who had lost their mother and brother in a crash. They turned to Murdaugh in their time of grief and loss, only to be met with deceit and theft. Perhaps the most personal betrayal was his theft from the estate of his longtime maid. A woman, Gloria Satterfield, who had spent years in his service, was exploited even in death, as Murdaugh siphoned off funds meant for her estate. Each confession added another layer to the shocking portrait of a man driven by greed and deceit. Not only had he killed his own family, but he had also exploited his position of trust to steal from those who had turned to him for help. The magnitude of his crimes and the extent of his betrayal left many reeling. Yet despite his admittance to these crimes, Murdaugh continues to deny any involvement in the killings of his wife and son. His guilty plea could result in additional years or even decades in prison, regardless of whether his murder conviction is overturned on appeal. This shocking admission painted a picture of a man who had fallen far from grace. As the courtroom listened to his confessions, there was a palpable sense of disbelief. Murdaugh told the judge he wanted to be held accountable for stealing from his clients and do right by his surviving son, Buster. Murdaugh still faces about 100 different charges in state court. Authorities said he committed insurance fraud by trying to have someone kill him so his surviving son, Buster, could get $10 million in life insurance. But the shot only grazed Murdaugh's head. The saga of Alex Murdaugh continues to fascinate and bewilder many, but it also raises some serious questions. How was it that this South Carolina attorney was able to carry out such extensive financial crimes, undetected for a considerable amount of time? It's a query that sends a chill down the spines of many, especially those within the legal profession. We are left to ponder on the integrity of a system that allowed one of its own to exploit it so ruthlessly. This is more than just a tale of one man's descent into criminality. It's a mirror held up to the legal profession, reflecting potential cracks in its structure that may need urgent attention. Trust is the bedrock of law. When that trust is shattered, as in the case of Murdaugh, a ripple effect ensues, shaking the faith of clients, colleagues, and the public at large. It's a shakeup that calls for introspection and possible reform. Does the Murdaugh case suggest a need for stricter oversight in the legal profession? And how can we ensure that those who are meant to uphold the law do not exploit it for personal gain? We hope you found our deep dive into the Murdaugh scandal informative and thought-provoking. As we continue to unravel the complexities of this case, we want to hear from you. Do you think the legal profession needs more stringent oversight? What measures do you believe could prevent such misuse of power in the future? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Your engagement fuels our commitment to bring you comprehensive coverage of compelling stories. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning.